It's showtime.
What's going on, guys? Django Fett here, and welcome to another Star Wars comic review, and today we are looking at the Emissaries and Assassins Omnibus. It is the beginning of the end of the Galactic Republic. The Jedi just don't know it yet. Across the galaxy, tensions rise and wars threaten as the unseen Sith set in motion their plans for conquest, from the seats of power on Coruscant to the desert wastes of far-off Tatooine, from the pod racing tracks of Malachor to the winter forests of Galadran. The Jedi are drawn into conflict after another, each one thinning their numbers and draining their strength. These are the battles which can lead up to the Clone Wars. On one side of the heroics of Mace Windu, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Anakin Skywalker, and other grades of the Jedi Order, and on the other side of villainy of Count Dooku and the bounty hunters turned Jedi killers are Aurra Sung and the notorious Django Fett. So this book contains stories concurrent to Episode 1 and before Episode 1. For the sake of this review, I will not take time to mention the first 4 stories, which are just Episode 1 stories, which are Episode 1, Anakin Skywalker, Queen Amidala, Qui-Gon Jinn, and Obi-Wan Kenobi. These are all pointless and terrible stories on the perspectives of these characters, with far-fetched stories within Episode 1, which are just these made-up stories, and some are just exact rip-offs of Episode 1, so they have no meaning. So the whole thing is just meaningless. It's just, I'm not going to waste my time. Moving on, we have Outlander, which is Republic issues number 7 through 12, continuing on from Prelude to Rebellion. Set in the same year as Episode 1, written by Timothy Truman and penciled by various artists. This story is about Ki-Adi-Mundi being sent to Tatooine to find a mystery about a Tusken Raider who uses a lightsaber. It is discovered that this Tusken Raider is a leader of a tribe, and indeed a Jedi, with a son named Ashard Heth. And that name would become very important later on down the line. So Tusken Jedi, how cool is that shit? Tuskens would eventually fight against the Hutts in a big battle, leaving Ashard Heth, who is the father, and his son alive, and left to train under Ki-Adi-Mundi and become a Padawan. So that's the story in a nutshell. It was interesting and really cool to see Tusken Jedi and see a very unique and cool story from the perspective of the Tuskens. This time you get to understand and know the Tusken Raiders and not see them as just blind savages. And I always see them as like this mysterious yet aggressive Native American type of tribe. I always see them as these Native Americans who are just oppressed. You can see that in Coder as well. You can see that storyline with when you go to Tatooine, see these Tusken Raiders who are yet aggressive, who are attacking these people, yet they're trying to do it for a purpose. They're not just blindly just doing it. They have a sense of honor and reason to do it, and they're left with nothing at the same time. So they have to fight back. So I really feel for them, and it feels like, Native Americans to me, a very good allegory to Native Americans. Remember Aurra Sung? You will hate her guts towards the end of this story. I'll just leave it off at that. She's in a lot of EU comics and is an annoying character more than anything else. And seeing various artists do a great job with all of the unique styles in almost every issue just really works. Next story is Emissaries to Malachor, which is the cover to this omnibus, written by Timothy Truman again, and penciled by various artists including Jan Duursema. Set right after Outlander and still in Episode 1 year, in Republic issues number 13 through 18. This is the continuation from Outlander with Ki-Adi-Mundi, Ashard Heth, but this time joined with Mace Windu and various other Jedi to uncover a Sidious plot, not Darth Sidious, but deceitful plot in Malachor. The only reason they showed this because they had to show a particular Jedi and how he got his scar. That was pretty much it in a nutshell. Yes, he actually got his scar before that time, but it explains why he got his scar, how he got his scar, and it's kind of more about him. But I found this story very forgettable and a messy storyline that feels like just all over the place. And the artwork is pretty dull, and oddly enough, Jan Duursema is part of it. But it feels like she didn't do anything and overshadowed by the other artists. I think at best she did the detailing. I feel like she didn't do anything else. It's just not evident. You don't see any of her artwork in any of this comic. So you would think the artwork would kind of save it, but it really does not at all. And now the last story, and it's a great one. Django Fett Open Seasons. So set 1 year before episode 1 and spanning the origins of Django Fett, so it's going to be 20 to 30 years before episode 1 and then 1 year before episode 1. So the timeline will vary. I mean, it's going through him from the beginning to the 1 year before becomes like a experienced bounty hunter of sorts. So the story is written by Hayden Blackman. And this guy knows how to write an epic story, as you've seen in the past with his Clone Wars stuff and various other stuff. And he did the Force Unleashed video game. I mean, he was pretty much the director of that. The guy knows his stuff, especially within the expanded universe. He knows how to create great stories, man. This story reveals how Fett became a Mandalorian warrior and how he was recruited by Dooku. Now, this comic is actually a tie-in to the Bounty Hunter video game. And in the game, you can actually collect Easter eggs to get this Open Seasons comic issue as an unlockable content. So really cool. And the game is centered between the comic, and also interestingly enough, with Wikipedia I should say, the comic Open Seasons is similar to Anakin Skywalker's line to Padme in episode 2. Anakin says, I killed him. I killed them all. They're dead. This is in reference to the Tusken Raiders he just slaughters. And Django Fett says, in this comic, he says, you killed them. You killed them all. We're all dead. In reference to the Jedi not practically just beating down the Mandalorians. And Django Fett just on his knees, doing everything in his power to beat the Jedi. This guy was just, shooting down Jedi, flaming Jedi, as well as just going hand to hand with them. Just pretty epic stuff. So I just really liked how it referenced something like that. Just the Jedi as these killers of sorts. And not just the Mandalorians as just blind killers. The Mandalorians have a point, man. So I love this comic. It shows the origins of Django Fett, and the video game enhances his character even more, which I really need to play. And you get to see Django become a Mandalorian warrior, to leading the Mandalorians against the hateful Death Watch, to being by himself and becoming his own bounty hunter. And when Death Watch are at its lowest, they resort to some dirty tactics that lead to a tragic turn of events to the Mandalorians. And you really feel like a full range of emotions throughout this comic. If you want to see Django Fett be an absolute badass, and a reason he's my favorite, look no further than this comic. Plus the artwork is just absolutely amazing. And seeing Dooku take a step and a reason to deviate from the Jedi and go down the dark side is brilliantly done in this comic. I never once saw Dooku in the EU have a reason to fall from the light. I'm sure there's other stories that I haven't read that explain it, but I think this story just says it all, and it gives you a sense of why Dooku just slowly went down the dark side because of this event alone. The Battle of Galadriel, which is explained in the Open Seasons book. Once you read it, you'll understand what I mean. So it definitely leads to his resentment and dislike of the Jedi, and it makes sense. It has a point to it, and I really like that. So my final rating for Star Wars Emissaries and Assassins, the Omnibus, is... Outlander and Open Seasons are worth it for this omnibus alone. The rest you can just ignore. So Emissaries and Assassins is actually the most affordable and readily available omnibus book I have seen. So on Amazon it's going for $29, and on eBay it's actually $22, $22 to $25. So definitely get it while you still can, and this is practically the regular price of the omnibus book. So I'm whipping out a lot of these comic reviews fast, and we have 2 more omnibus comic reviews left for the Rise of the Empire era that I have to do. And I will definitely finish them by the end of this year. You can count on that. So don't forget to please like this video, comment down below. If you've read this comic, let me know in the comment section. And subscribe for more Star Wars comic reviews. And I'll see you guys on the next video. Peace.